Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. Here's hoping that this time the recording holds. In the last episode, I believe we read California Field, Everyone's Spreadsheet, Asexual, Speak No, Hear No, See No, and Camera Disruption. And this one we're going to be checking out Online Role-Playing Game, Voodoo Organ Transplant, Memetic Counteragent, Lost Children, and City of the Sun, which will take us over into the 900s. So, the online role-playing game is safe, or classified safe. Physical containment of 896 is impossible due to widespread public knowledge. However, the anomalous properties of 896 have been largely neutralized through Foundation efforts and the cooperation of Blankety Blank, the publishing and hosting company of 896. The server cluster hosting the original code is to be housed at Site 15. 5 standard desktop computers are to be directly connected to the server with one installed on each one. 896 may never be connected to the internet or any of Site 15's networks, but may be regularly patched as needed by use of physical media. It used to say any personnel wishing to use it must obtain permission from 2 Level 4 administrators. Now it says, Foundation personnel may not use it until further notice. No personnel Level 4 or above may use 896 due to potential loss of valuable Foundation data. Any disposable dudes using testing of it must be routinely monitored for the effects of 896, and containment procedures must be tailored individually to ensure no security breaches occur. Description: SCP-896 is known to the public as blank blank blank, a popular online role-playing game. The version of 896 that the public uses has no anomalous effects. However, the original code developed by blank blank exhibits effects that warrant blank blank blank's classification as an SCP. It functions as any normal online role-playing game. Please consult non-Foundation articles if not familiar with the mechanics and terminology of an online role-playing game. The abnormal behavior only manifests when a user creates an avatar which shares the exact first and last name of the user. Once this occurs, the user is imprinted upon the avatar. Once imprinted, any changes to the avatar statistics will have a direct effect upon the user. How this occurs is not well understood. The current hypothesis is that 896 allows the user to exhibit a powerful mind-over-matter control over their body and surroundings. There are 6 stats that directly affect the abilities of the user. Raising the stats in-game causes a corresponding increase in the physical or mental characteristics of the user. However, if one stat is 15% greater than any other stat, all other physical attributes of the user suffer. The stats and their link to real physical abilities are described below. So it's Strength, Agility, Stamina, Charisma, Intelligence, and Wisdom. Strength is self-explanatory. Agility, highly agile users note a high accuracy of movement and control over their body. This allows for a greater speed of movement with no sacrifice of skill or accuracy of the desired action. Stamina results in the ability to go longer without food or sleep, enhanced physical endurance, and even resistance to disease and physical damage. Charisma grants the user a deep understanding of an individual and exploits this to manipulate them to their own wants. Higher intelligence leads to an increase in the information retention and problem-solving capabilities of the user, and wisdom allows a deeper understanding of situations and people and allows them to see the best possible solution for the problem. It should be noted that the best possible solution is based upon the morals and ethical priorities of the subject. Just drink some water real quick, sorry. Recovery log. 896 effects were first noted during the beta test. MTF moved 4's routine monitoring intercepted intra-office emails detailing the effects and quickly moved into Secure 896. It was already highly anticipated by the general public, so simply burying the project was not an option. It was released to the general public with significant code alterations to ensure it would not exhibit anomalous behavior. The old beta code was quickly patched, and it was effectively contained. And Test Log A, a group of 5 disposable dudes were selected for testing, based upon their knowledge of computer gaming, compliance with Foundation instruction, and below average physical and mental characteristics. Each Class D was assigned a role within the group designed to test one specific statistic. For ease of reading, A through E are referred to by an alias describing their role as follows: Knight, Berserker, Cleric, Warlock, and Bard. For the sake of time, I'm just going to pretty much sum up what happened. The further into the testing they got, the more the people got less. Like, the Knight became impervious to damage, the Berserker's muscles were ripping through their skin, the Cleric became, I believe, really good. I don't remember what happened with the Cleric. Maybe I should just read them. It's let's see. If I just open all of them so that you can see how much extra stuff it is and why I was attempting to just sum it up instead of reading it again. So let's see, what was it that the cleric did? So that's well, I'll just read the results instead of everything. All subjects underwent control tests to determine their baseline abilities. After today's session, they did not display any gains that were statistically relevant to our data set. Let's see. Test A. Or excuse me, next test. The Knight and Berserker are showing improvement. The Knight has been able to maintain a full sprint on the treadmill for 2 minutes longer, displays an increased pain tolerance. Berserker has begun to develop more muscular physique and can lift 9% more than control tests. Bard's abilities are hard to quantify as expected. Warlock abilities and information recall and application have increased dramatically. Cleric has begun conducting highly organized and logical debates with researchers regarding the ethics and purpose of SCP/human testing. Their stats are approaching the 15% mark, and we are anticipating the consequences of this to appear soon. Berserker has been instructed to begin increasing his agility statistics so he can better control his vastly improved strength. Bard has been forbidden from speaking during testing to prevent self-aggrandizement at the cost of the other test subjects' focus. Warlock is approaching savant-level intelligence. However, the IQ of the subjects focusing on physical stats has plummeted. Bard, Cleric, and Warlock have significantly reduced energy levels and have lost 20% of their muscle mass over the last 2 weeks. Berserker was, testing notes. Berserker and Knight quibbled over who should receive a magic item. The argument turned violent. Berserker threw the Knight into a containment wall before being subdued. Knight was unharmed despite causing significant damage to the concrete wall. The Berserker was easily subdued with the use of a taser. Although he is physically very strong, he possesses no additional toughness or endurance. The converse is true with Knight. Although highly resistant to damage and physical pain, he is no stronger than his control test. The Berserker has been fitted with a standard Foundation shock collar to ensure compliance. The mental faculties of all subjects have plummeted. Although Warlock's memory has near-perfect recall, his ability to apply his knowledge is nearly non-existent. Even the slightest leap in logic or creative thinking is beyond his ability. Cleric's long-term memory has been severely limited and must be briefed on all aspects of a problem before he can formulate a solution. Both Cleric and Warlock require wheelchairs and assistance in feeding themselves. Knight's epidermis has become extremely hard but has lost any elasticity. In order to provide the necessary range of movement for testing, lacerations along his joints are to be done 5 hours beforehand with a diamond-bladed jigsaw. The cuts heal within the prerequisite time, and Knight apparently feels no pain from the procedure. Recommend increasing Knight's agility as well to ensure ease of testing. Berserker requires continual skin grafting, as muscle growth has outstripped the elasticity of his skin. The Bard was terminated today. Foundation researcher Blank has elected to play Bard's avatar to allow testing to continue. The Bard breached containment when the guard assigned to his cell released the lock. The guard had been providing the Bard with food over the past week and had been regularly exposed to the Bard's body language and demeanor. When asked why he released Bard, the guard stated, "I see the poor guy every day. I felt sorry for him." Bard walked to the cafeteria and made Foundation personnel make him steak and strawberry ice cream. Upon completing his meal, he returned to his cell to sleep. Command determined the threat presented by Bard's continually developing abilities outweighed any further potential insights into 896 and ordered his termination. It is theorized that the Bard only returned to his cell because the thought of escape from custody had not even crossed his mind. Cleric has requested researchers allow him to invest in intelligence statistics to enhance his failing memory. His request is tentatively approved. At this point, nearly all subjects require Cleric's guidance to perform any tasks. The Berserker has seemingly reached a plateau of his physical abilities. He claims he is no longer experiencing any increase in strength or agility despite continued gain in 896. Requesting additional security measures should be considered in case he is falsifying his results. It should be noted that communication with all subjects has become increasingly difficult as all are rapidly losing language skills. Okay. Notes. While subjects were led back... Okay, so, testing log containment breach of all subjects. 3 subjects terminated, testing discontinued. While subjects were led back to their containment cell by Foundation security, the Berserker managed to remove his shock collar and kill blank guards. The strength and speed were much higher than anticipated. He proceeded to free the other subjects. The Warlock and Berserker made their way back to the containment cell. Knight remained and resisted Foundation personnel attempting to re-establish containment. Knight held off blank Foundation personnel for 10 minutes. Standard issue firearms could not harm Knight. Eventually forced into a containment cell and terminated by asphyxiation, which took approximately 20 minutes. No autopsy was performed due to examiner's inability to pierce his skin with medical instruments. Upon reaching the containment cell, Warlock told Berserker to open the cell. Berserker was able to rip the door off its hinges before dying. Autopsies indicate the force required to remove the door shattered blank bones in his body and snapped his spine in 3 places. Although the Berserker was able to generate enough force to accomplish the feat, his body could not handle the door's weight or the effect of Newton's third law. Warlock entered the containment and proceeded to access the game. It took approximately 7 minutes for him to decipher the source code and edit the hexadecimal code containing his character statistics. Upon editing the stats to the maximum value allowed, the Warlock vanished from containment. To this date, the Warlock or his remains have not been found. Upon viewing his account contained on 896, researchers discovered a customer service notation simply stating, "User has been banned for hacking." Cleric escaped containment and his whereabouts are unknown at this time, most likely responsible for the breach as the other subjects lacked the necessary ambition or planning to attempt this sort of escape. Researcher Blank is also missing. It's believed during the distraction caused by the containment breach, the cleric gained access to SCP Blank with the help of the researcher and used it to escape. Test Log B. Dr. Blank, a level 3 researcher, was conservatively using 896 to augment his abilities. He was increasing his stats uniformly to avoid any negative effects. He was 53 years old and in good health, and his strength and IQ had increased 7% since beginning to use 896. Decided to have a game-a-thon over Thanksgiving weekend in 2000-something, in which he played for an estimated blank hours straight before he expired. Autopsies revealed evidence of severe arthritis, early onset Alzheimer's, cataract, and development of several tumors. The medical examiner could only conclude that he died of old age. Further use of 896 by Foundation personnel has been suspended until the direct correlation between the aging effects brought on by leveling is understood. Okie dokie. So, next up is the voodoo organ transplant. It's safe, formerly Euclid. 897 is allowed full access to level 0 regions of the facility. It may not engage in any activities that have the potential to be physically harmful in any way, directly or indirectly, and is required to undergo a comprehensive medical exam daily. If 897 is found to be at risk of any kind of organ failure, it is to be confined to a cell and provided with a disposable personnel in order to restore itself. Description: 897 is an effectively immortal person of variable height, weight, and build, and indeterminate age, race, and gender. It claims to be blank blank, an Estonian man on record as having died in a house fire in Reval, now Tallinn, in 19-something, age 70. If this were true, it would make 897 blank 100 years old. When one or more of 897's vital organs is compromised, usually as a result of trauma or disease-related injury, but sometimes as a result of age-related wear and tear, said organ will spontaneously switch places with that of whichever human subject is in closest proximity, provided they are in good health, via teleportation. This saves 897's life, but at the expense of the subject, to whom the process is fatal in blank percent of cases, and severely debilitating in the other blank percent. So it's at least 80% or so. The process is entirely involuntary and does not require 897 to be conscious in order to work. MRI scans and medical tests indicate that the transplanted organs are seamlessly integrated into the 897's body, regardless of genetic disparity, and function as normal. 897 has been found to contain DNA from at least blank 100 different people, including blank Foundation personnel. It is estimated that no more than blank percent of its original body mass remains. Why its immune system, which itself has been replaced several times, does not reject foreign tissues is not known. 897 was discovered by the Foundation in the spring of 2000-something, when it was reported that 3 hikers in Denali National Park, Alaska, had died in the space of 2 weeks under similar highly anomalous circumstances. The first hiker appeared to drown despite being on land. The coroner's report confirmed that not only were her lungs filled with water, but they were unusually large in relation to her size and build, meaning they did not fit inside her ribcage and as such had ruptured and hemorrhaged. The second hiker, data expunged. The third hiker dropped dead when several of his bones, including cervical vertebrae, appeared to spontaneously fracture. A mobile task force sent to scout the area found 897, who had recently taken to living in the wilderness, and took it into custody with blank casualties. 897 reported that he had fallen into a river, data expunged by a mother grizzly bear, and fallen off a cliff at times coinciding with the deaths of the 3 hikers. Due to the stress of involuntarily causing multiple deaths, 897 is highly mentally unstable, and is neither willing nor able to cooperate with the Foundation. Its condition has gotten substantially worse since being taken into custody. Will self-harm at any given opportunity, blank Foundation personnel have been killed or injured because of this. Whether 897 self-harms out of frustration with its existence, or merely to spite the Foundation is unknown. On blank October 2011, 897 briefly escaped Foundation custody. When Dr. Rasmussen entered this padded cell in order to attempt an interview, 897 broke free of its straitjacket and data expunged its own face, causing its eyes, nose, much of its skin, and most of its teeth and its lower jaw to be exchanged with Dr. Rasmussen's. Dr. Rasmussen is believed to have expired almost immediately. 897 was then able to pass himself off as Dr. Rasmussen, allowing him to leave the facility. When the body was discovered, Agent Blank was sent to recover 897. 19 hours later, 897 returned of its own accord, now possessing the memories and personality of Agent Blank. It transpired that upon tracking the SCP to the nearby town of Blank, Agent Blank attempted to restrain it and accidentally shot it in the head, initiating a spontaneous brain transplant. Agent Blank's body quickly expired due to massive brain damage. The mind of the original 897 was lost in the process. The fact that 897's body has now been entirely replaced, meaning the original person technically no longer exists, has led some researchers to theorize that 897 is not a person, but a localized, abstract, and anomalous effect. Because Agent Blank is mentally stable and willing to cooperate with the Foundation, 897 has been downgraded to safe. Okay. I want to stop and then start the recording again so I don't lose anything like last time. In retrospect, I don't know why I felt the need to tell you that, because if I edited it the right way, you wouldn't have even noticed. But next up is the Memetic Counter Agent. 898. Information pertaining to the creation and application of 898 is restricted to Foundation personnel with level 3 clearance or higher. Experimentation with 898 may only be conducted with the approval of a majority of the Overseer Council. Description: SCP-898 is a memetic disorder specifically created by the Foundation researchers for the purpose of serving as a defense mechanism against other memetic or mind-affecting attacks. Its development was undertaken as a part of Operation Azure Skies in 1992. The objective of Azure Skies was to design and employ a variety of devices to protect Foundation personnel in the field from supernatural threats that conventional technologies were not sufficient to guard against. 898 specifically was created over the course of 3 years of study and experimentation, taking information from analysis of already known memetic SCPs to drive a Gestalt research development program. The 898 project was overseen by Dr. Granko during its run until its official cancellation on December 22, 1995. The conclusion of Dr. Granko and his subordinates reached was that, since any memetic compulsion by definition involves the inspiration of an idea in the target's mind, the most obvious defense mechanism was another type of inspiration, preferably one that would create a more powerful compulsion and override the first meme. To that end, Granko proposed a simple, biologically motivated catalyst might be the solution. According to the theory he developed, when a subject's mind that had already been infected by 898 detected a potential memetic invasion, 898 would automatically stimulate the subject's sympathetic ganglion to flood the subject's system with adrenaline and provoke a fight or flight response. The subject would then dismiss the invading meme in the process of either initiating an attack or in fleeing from the meme's effective range. The method for detecting invading memes revolved around tracking sudden changes in the subject's limbic system. A common trend Granko and his team had observed among memetic viruses known to the Foundation was that nearly all of them stimulated an unusually high amount of activity in the orbitofrontal cortex, and so 898 was designed to activate in response to this stimulation, or if the subject became consciously aware of a memetic attack, which would frequently start off orbitofrontal cortex activity as well. In order to ensure that 898 would provide adequate protection against all types of memes, Granko opted to form the core of his counter meme around all 5 senses. 898 at its completion would include auditory, visual, olfactory, tactile, and taste-based elements. The components are all expunged. Addendum, January 17, 1995. After the inception is completed, Class A amnestic must be administered in order to prevent looping, auto-activation, and related phenomena. See Incident Reports 14 through 20, Dr. Granko. Refer to documents data expunged for more details. Incident Report 14. On September 22, 1994, the first draft was administered to 30 disposable dudes, who were then locked into secure chamber number 34 at Site 12. A loudspeaker installed in the room began to play a recording of SCP-444 after all the subjects were safely locked behind the soundproof doors. 12 attempted to break down the doors, presumably to escape, 10 fled to the corners of the room and huddled in them, covering their ears, and 8 rushed to the speaker and attempted to tear it out of the wall. After some minutes, the latter subjects were successful, but they continued to show signs of extreme agitation after the recording was silenced. They began to attack each other approximately 8 minutes later. When the doors were unsealed and security teams entered 30 minutes later, a majority of the subjects were either dead or in critical condition, and the survivors had to be neutralized. Report 15. On October 1st, same year, a second draft, modifications or detailed data expunged, so no they're not, was administered to 30 disposable dudes who were then locked in the chamber. Once again, it played 444 after they were all locked behind the doors. They displayed a similar behavior initially, but their agitation ceased after Dr. Dahl, the technician overseeing the experiment, shut off the recording himself. Unaware that the microphone in the booth was turned on, he said, "Well, it looks like the counter meme worked this time." Some of the subjects who were near the last speaker apparently heard this as they began to show signs of agitation and proceeded to fight amongst themselves or run from each other, starting a riot that eventually encompassed all of them. Security teams had to neutralize several of them, but the remaining ones surrendered. Excerpt from interview with Dr. Griango. As near as we could tell, the problem was that the counter meme was treating itself as an invading meme. If a person infected became consciously aware that they were infected, it would activate. We call this auto-activation. The first complete 898 treatment also had an unfortunate side effect of looping. It would automatically detect itself once it had been activated once, and would keep activating over and over again. Although we were able to work out the looping problem in most cases, we could not prevent a loop in the case of auto-activation, and we never found a solution to auto-activation. The best we could do was use a workaround with amnestics and try to make sure that knowledge of 898 wasn't generally known to Foundation personnel. Incident 23. On March 21st, 95, Trooper Rock was watching television in the break room on Site 12. At approximately 4:03 p.m., he screamed, drew his sidearm, and fired several rounds into the television. He surrendered to custody peacefully afterwards, but was unable to explain why he felt a sudden surge of hostility from the television. Incident 27. March 29th, same year, Trooper Wall was sent on a mission to recapture SCP Blank along with the rest of Beta 4. During the helicopter flight to SCP Blank's location, she reportedly opened fire on her task force leader and other members of her squad when they tried to restrain her. The commander was wounded but survived. Wall was killed in the fight. MTFL 1 L Beta 1-4 or whatever, Beta 4-1 reported that he had been giving the squad a warm-up speech when Wall attacked him. Excerpt from interview with Dr. Granko. Beta 4 was one of the several mobile task force teams that we infected with 898 once we thought we had refined it to the point where unexpected bursts of aggression or panic would no longer be a problem. We were wrong, obviously. I think what we failed to take into account is the extent to which memetic propagation is inherent in human language. Certain keywords or phrases that we all use every day represent ideas and inspire emotions, and we take this for granted, because we don't know how to communicate any other way. 898, though, somehow interprets certain natural memes as threats, even if they don't influence the mind any more strongly than me telling you a joke. And since no two people in the world have exactly the same neural chemistry, there's no way to know in advance what kind of memes will be treated as threats for any given person. Test log. One person's infected with strain 3 and the other person isn't. The first subject was in a locked room with a written sample of 444 and asked to copy it onto another blank piece of paper. When that task was completed, a second subject would enter the room and the first would verbally describe what he had written to the second subject. Results, they initially appeared to be unable to copy the text until we resorted to tracing over it. He was unable to describe what he had written to the other person and finally resorted to showing them what he had copied. Isolated along with them. Began to show symptoms of 444 infection, 44 or 589 did not, and eventually they became unable to communicate with one another. Subject, I'm going to just say their last numbers. 591 infected with 898, strain 4, 592 not infected. Test C above. 591 successfully copied the text and read it aloud to 592. 591 isolated along with 592. 592 began to show symptoms of 444, 591 did not, but they were still able to have some limited communication. Excerpt from interview Dr. Granko. Our early attempts at making a counter meme toyed with the idea of compelling the affected subject to be blind or apathetic towards incoming meme, but those had even more serious drawbacks than the Berserker serum. In the worst cases, our subjects would become effectively blind and deaf, unable to see or hear or read any language or sense anything else with powerful mental associations. In the best cases, the subject would still be effective carriers of any meme they absorbed, even if they were not personally affected by it. In short, we have failed. Looking back on the last 3 years, it seems to me that all we've really done is figure out how to induce a lot of different mental disorders. 05 blank. I see. And you think that this is reason enough to abandon the project? Yes. Maybe not forever. But it's clear to me now that we just don't have the knowledge base to develop very effective memes of our own. Maybe in a few decades, when our knowledge of memetics and neurology is a bit more developed, we can pick this up again, but for now, I don't think there's anything else constructive that we can do. Okay. The Lost Children. I'm going to drink some water again because I'm just really dried out right now for some reason. Probably because there's a fan blowing in my face. Let's see. Euclid, formerly safe. 899 is contained in a rough patch of forest in Rocky Mountain National Park. The phenomenon has not been able to travel more than 5 meters beyond a standing living tree, thus the area has been isolated by creating a continuous fire break around the affected region. 3 Park Service cabins are staffed by Foundation agents on the borders of the site for the purposes of preventing hikers and travelers from attempting to enter 899. Agents are authorized to administer Class B and C amnestics to any trespassers. Children who enter 899 cannot be recovered, and containment must be maintained by removing those who have knowledge of the child's last whereabouts, or by planting false evidence of death by natural causes elsewhere in the region. Agents who come into physical contact with 899 must undergo regular psychiatric evaluation. As the 899 phenomenon has become increasingly more violent, all trees within 5 meters of the observation cabins have been removed. Personnel entering 899 must do so in pairs and carry sidearms with custom iron ammunition. Description: SCP-899 is a psychic and telekinetic phenomenon that most commonly manifests as groups of hostile phantom children. Travelers in the area have reported being pursued and harassed by small, shadowy figures that curse and throw rocks in an attempt to drive them out of the immediate area. The figures tend to be featureless, and it is usually difficult to determine if they possess any gender or even individual voices and behaviors. Failure to leave the area will result in an increase of aggressive behavior, culminating at a direct physical attack by the entities. An adult who comes into physical contact with one of the entities will suffer the loss of all detailed memories prior to the onset of puberty. General knowledge of family members and living conditions will remain, but persons who have been affected by this memory loss often display a significant change in personality. The most common symptoms are loss of impulsiveness and curiosity, and negative responses to attempts at humor. Affected persons also tend to become highly impatient with children regardless of their prior behavior. Pre-adolescent children who come into contact with the entities will physically disappear, after which some or all of the entities may take on parts of the lost child's appearance. No attempts to communicate or find the whereabouts of a child lost in this way has yet been successful. Adolescents who have not fully matured past puberty are data expunged. Although more detailed manifestations have been encountered within the area, no attempts to communicate with the entities within have resulted in anything but attacks on Foundation personnel. Items made of iron or redacted are useful in warding off direct contact with the entities. However, as confrontation of the phenomena is not required to contain it, no tools containing redacted have been allocated to 899. Travel through the area is also hindered by a spatial anomaly that makes land navigation difficult. Compasses and GPS navigation systems will give false directions, and trails through the underbrush will change course. Although there are occasional sounds of wildlife within the affected area, no wild animals or tracks have been observed within the range of 899's effects. Animals brought into the site are also subject to attacks by the entities, although they will not attempt to make physical contact. Experiment. Conducted March 23rd to May 15th. The Pied Piper's flute was transferred to 899 to test its effect on the childlike manifestations. It is successful in driving away the manifestations, although the spatial anomaly that complicates land travel within the area remained. Due to the harmful effects of prolonged exposure, 573 was returned to containment at the conclusion of the experiment. SCP-573 should be contained here with 899, as they can effectively be used to cancel each other out. There are no children or animals to be exposed to 573 inside this place. Please reconsider and return 573 to my care, Agent W. Blank. W. Incident Report 25, June 10th, 2009. A new manifestation has been encountered in 899. The entity took the appearance of an adolescent male covered in bloody wounds. Rather than normal interaction, it immediately attacked Dr. Blank, resulting in severe lacerations and distinct bite marks on the arm, neck, and upper thigh. Dr. Blank is undergoing treatment and quarantine. A few days later, they were released from quarantine with no permanent damage beyond scarring. A psychiatric examination was passed with expected results, and has been able to give recollections from his youth despite physical contact with 899. The new manifestation has been classified 899-1. About a week later, one manifestations have been increasing in number and have been observed in direct conflict with the other manifestations. One has also attacked the cabin on the northern border and started a fire, which resulted in the death of Agent W. Blank. Although one can be deterred in the same manner as 899, the new manifestations display a significant increase in aggression with intent to kill. Research suggests that the change in 899's phenomenon is related to exposure to 573. No further cross-SCP experimentation with 899 is allowed at this time per 05 order. So, they played the Pied Piper flute to the anomalous ghost children, and they created Anomalous, not ghost children, that kill the ghost children and anyone who comes anywhere near, and if you don't come near, they'll track you down and burn you down. So, you know, maybe just don't bring up the Piper Flute for anything ever. And that brings us to SCP-900, which is the City of the Sun or whatever. Yeah, City of the Sun. Site-78 encompasses the entirety of the areas of 900 that have not been submerged. The perimeter is to be surrounded by electric fence. 2 snipers are to be stationed at each guard tower during daylight hours, with 4 during nighttime hours. One's quarters near the river gate are to be guarded by 2 armed agents at all times. Personnel are authorized to administer Class C amnestics to any and all trespassers. Trespassers are to be taken to the police station and redacted. SCP-900 is an abandoned city located on and around an island blank kilometers southwest of Redacted Province, Indonesia. Its total area is approximately 150 kilometers squared. Foundation archaeologists estimate 900 was most likely built between blank and blank BCE and collapsed between blank and blank BCE. Multiple ancient and medieval historians have made the possible mention of 900's destruction, including Thucydides and Saint Bede, whatever. See document CTE 586, which is not here, so who cares. The majority of 900 structures are no longer standing. Remains of stairs, granite block foundations, and a few archways are still intact. At its height, the city was surrounded by stone walls and was divided into 3 districts, the temple, market, and housing districts. 900's largest structure, Temple 1, was the main center of worship. 2 smaller temples, 2 and 7, exist in each of the districts, and 52 smaller shrines are found outside the walls. 3 of 900's gates have been destroyed, but the Great Gate and the River Gate remain intact. The Great Gate was apparently used for common people, and the River Gate served as a harbor. The boundaries are marked by a disruption of electronic equipment, including but not limited to loss of function, shutdown, distortion, or amplification of display devices, etc. Audio equipment within 3 kilometers of 78 may sporadically experience incidental white noise signals across multiple frequencies. 1, a female humanoid, is the sole resident of 900 and the source of much of the information regarding the history. 1 speaks and writes in an unknown language, and she has cooperated with Dr. Kip and researcher Liddell to create a word list with corresponding pictograms. 1 resists shows of force by data expunged. 1 will not attempt to leave Site-78 under any circumstances. 1 was section removed by O5 order, clearance level 5 required for access. And the relevant sections from the personal notes of Agent Nerino, blank, full recordings available on request from Dr. Kip. It's just them saying that they hear people from the past over the sounds of the white noise. On addendum 2 on blank, 1 was interviewed within Site-78 by the site director, Dr. Kip. 1 was questioned about 900. The following is a list of questions asked by Dr. Kip and their answers written by 1. Translations and annotations were written by researcher Liddell. Please give a brief history of the city. It was built for the people by the sun. The others like you were jealous that they could not build a fine city themselves. The jealousy was a small problem at first. Over time it grew into a war. The people were strong, but the others numbered more. The others overwhelmed them in every battle. Data expunged. The sun cursed the others with a veil over their eyes, and the sun leapt from the sanctum. The sea swept over the ruins. Why are you here? I have been punished for my lack of faith. How long have you lived in the city? Many high tides, I do not count them. Have you ever left? No. Are you capable of leaving? I have been punished for my lack of faith. Did humans look and behave differently from the way they do now? They wore skins of creatures. They had no gods. They wanted to butcher the sun. How many people would you estimate lived here at its peak? There are blank 1,000 of us. Are you alone on the island? There are blank 1,000 of us. Is the geography of the surrounding area any different today than when the city was populated? There has always been the sea, but the city has not always been drowned. Our radio interference is beginning louder over the past few months. Do you have any explanation? The sun will take back its creation. So, the people refers to a specific ethnic group or tribe 1 was a member of. They considered themselves separate or superior to other groups. Separate and superior. The sun is called this for lack of a better word in English. I can some of the actual meaning is roughly personification of spiritual and intellectual enlightenment. Nonetheless, the sun has many properties of the real sun ascribed to it, such as the ability to burn things. Both the real sun and this figurative sun are represented as discs on Temple 1's walls. Footnote 3 and 4 were in the data expunged blocks, and yet the footnote for 4 is still described? I don't have an exact translation for this one. Eyes or fire may be the most plausible, but it could also refer in an oblique way to a particular star or dagger. Could also mean shadow. could also mean clouded. When this word is applied to a person, it could also mean strangled. I'm pretty sure that it just meant drowned due to the fact that most of the city's underwater, and I don't know why they felt like they had to re-describe the word drowned. But in any case, that does it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you would need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later!